thing is a force operating through all these different areas of society, ancient and modern, then the same themes are going to come through all those different things. And they do, as I'll show very clearly as we go through in this section. Common themes, here's one: worship of the reptile. It's in our face if you look at it. The oldest known, this is mainstream anthropology and stuff, the oldest known focus of religious worship is the serpent or the snake. It goes back at least 70,000 years to the Slido Hills in Botswana, where the San people, also known as the Bushmen, say that the great python with his bag of eggs came and created humanity. There's so much symbolism to do with this stuff around the world. And this is a man called the Reverend Bathurst Dean. Obviously, he was a Christian, and he wrote a book called Worship of the Serpent, came out in 1933, and basically he did a study of worship of the serpent all over the world, and why and where it went. And this was his conclusion. It appears then that no nations were so geographically remote or so religiously discordant, but that one and only one superstitious characteristic was common to all, that the most civilized and the most barbarous bowed down with the same devotion to the same engrossing deity, and that this deity either was or was represented by the same sacred serpent. It appears also that in most, if not all, the civilized countries where the serpent was worshipped, some fable or tradition which involved his history directly or indirectly alluded to the fall of man in paradise in which the serpent was concerned. What follows then, but that the most ancient account respecting the cause and nature of this seduction must be the one from which all the rest are derived, which represent the victorious serpent, victorious over man in a state of innocence, and subduing his soul in a state of sin, as he would say as a Christian, into his most abject veneration and adoration of himself. And you find reptilian entities depicted all around the world, like these are found in graves of the Ubaid people, which preceded Sumer in what is now Iraq, Mesopotamia. The Egyptians used to depict their pharaohs in the way of the cobra, with the cobra hood, the cobra belly, the cobra coming out of the third eye. The Druids used to worship a serpent god called Hu, which if you play it through, Hu-Man, it makes sense, symbolically at least. In Asia, they had the Nagas, who was said to be a people who could take either human or reptilian form. You had Kukulkan, who was the serpent-focused god of the Mayan people in Central America. Of course, you've got the dragon all over Asia. You've got folk tales galore about dragons and flying dragons. And you've got the folklore and the fairy tales of princes turning from frogs into princes and stuff like that. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Paul VI audience hall in the bloody Vatican. There's old Ben. What the bloody hell is that? Right? It's supposed to be... It's called the resurrection. It's supposed to be Jesus being resurrected. Bloody changed since I last saw a picture. Not that they know what he looked like anyway. It didn't exist, but there you go. But so here then you have the way that the ancients in Mesopotamia and Babylon and such like, they represented the serpent, not the fish gods rather, with the scales, fish god worship. And the priests of the fish god cult, like the Dagon fish god, etc., they used to wear hats like this that looked like a fish head. You know. And I'm saying, as I've said in my books over the years, these ancient religions came through is the Roman Church and Christianity and other things. They're just the same ancient religions using different names to hide the fact that they're the same ancient religions. So there's the fish god cult of Babylon, and there's the Roman Church. Old Ben. And there's the Archbishop of Canterbury with his fish hat. You know, marrying the royal couple. It's just the same thing coming through the ages. They hide it. I'll have a pound of cod, please, Pope. And some chips. There you go. There's your chips. It'll be... No. Oh, think of the sponsorship potential, Ben. So, this is a great friend of mine, Credo Muchwa. He's in his 90s now, from South Africa. I met him in 1998 when he called me and said, "How do you know about the Chitauri?" What the hell's the Chitauri? People, the children of the serpent. It's the Zulu ancient lore and legends of the Chitauri, reptilian entities manipulating human affairs. This is one species, because there are many of these reptilian entities, which Credo painted, because he's he's an artist and a great talented man. Interestingly, when you put that next to Robert Ilomis's painting from 2009, that's much older, in a totally different society, the similarities are compelling. And this is the necklace of the mysteries. It's been stolen now, unfortunately, but I've seen it many times before it was. Credo Mutua had this passed down as in the shamanistic stream. It's mentioned in accounts 500 years old. He reckons it's at least 1,000. And here you have the symbols hanging from, it's not a necklace really, it goes on the shoulder, it's extremely heavy. And the shaman goes around these symbols and tells the story of African history and indeed world history. And on the front is a very non-human entity in come and get me mode. And here is a human woman. And this, hundreds at least years of old artifact, that symbol is about the interbreeding between the non-human race and humans to create this hybrid bloodline. And there's more symbols on there, which I'll come to later. And I asked him, I said, well, it doesn't look very reptilian. And he told a story that I found around the world in different cultures, that this reptilian force, this Chitauri as they call them, said, you never depict us as we really look. So some people did, but many people didn't. They just depicted them as completely unhuman, but not like they really looked. Now, this is a big-time important thing in relation to the world that we live in today and what controls it, who controls it. Because the ancient accounts, again, talk, and I've talked to people on the inside in the modern world who've confirmed all this from their perspective, that certain bloodlines were created to specifically represent these entities outside of human society, outside of human frequency range, in the human frequency range of visible light, to be the manipulators in our world of that which is manipulating our world. Because for vibrational and atmospheric reasons, they cannot come into our world except very briefly, or in technology which gives them a manufactured atmosphere, a manufactured reality in which they can come. In other words, they need representatives that are operating with invisible light to manipulate our world. That's what these bloodlines are. And they see DNA as a software program. They know what it is. They know the body's a biological computer. And they want to keep certain information patterns within this DNA because it dictates the behavior of these hybrid bloodlines. And they want to control them as much as they control anyone else. And so, to keep this bloodline pure, in other words, to keep the software program intact, these bloodlines, through the ages, known as royal bloodlines, aristocratic bloodlines, have interbred incessantly with each other. Because if they bred outside of this particular hybrid software, it would quickly become diluted and no longer have the information patterns that dictate their behavior, which I'll come to. In fact, I'll come to it now. One of the great traits of these bloodlines is that they have deleted from them the ability for empathy. Empathy is the fail-safe mechanism of human society, or any society. If we have empathy with the consequences for others of our actions, that fundamentally dictates our actions and suppresses the extreme nature of our actions. If you have no ability to empathize with the consequences for others of your actions, there are now no limits. There is nothing you wouldn't do because there is no emotional consequence of doing it. Indeed, you can get off on it, as some of these do. And these, in the modern world, are what those bloodlines look like today. They've come through history, and now they're the ones in the positions of power in banking, business, media ownership, politics, corporate, massive corporate giants around the world in big biotech, big pharma, big food, and all the rest of it. And they are the representatives within visible light of these archontic, I will call them, because they take various forms, entities. And